गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कं करोति वाचालं ते कृपातं देशि गुरुं तारणम् ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Okay, dear devotees, Hare Krishna. So last time we started Canto 2, Chapter 1. We completed till verse 5. Very so Sukhdev Goswami is answering Parikshit Maharaj's questions, and it starts with, again this canto starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Actually that is, I think Srila Prabhupada added that. And verse 1, Sukhdev Goswami, he actually glorifies Parikshit Maharaj for asking the question. And why was it? Because that question was beneficial for the real well-being for all, actually, not only himself, but for all. So anything that is related to Krishna, that is beneficial for all, that the devotee like Sukhdev Goswami, they like it very much and they feel happy, and they are very much enthusiastic to speak when such questions are asked. So then he started first, like, what was the question that Parikshit Maharaj asked? Anybody remembers? What are the questions?
Yeah. The thing is, what should the man here remember and worship, and what he should not do? What should he? That was one question, and the second question is, what is the ultimate something? 1 second, Mataji. What is that? What is the self-realizing?
What is the duty of a man in general, and what is the duty of a man who is about to die?
Yeah.
Then he asked, what should one hear about, chant and remember and worship?
Worship, right.
Chant, remember and worship, the four things, right? So Sukadev Goswami started speaking, what should he not do? First of all, he started speaking about what should he not do. About not being attached to the materialistic life of sleeping and eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and being like Graham Hades, right? So, so that is one should not do. And then in verse number 5, he should, and also very beautifully, Srila Prabhupada writes about that even though everybody sees people dying in the family, but they think that they will not die and their family members will save them. It is impossible, right? So that is, and then what should one hear about is this verse number 5. So he says that if we want to be free from the misery life, then we should hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is actually, we don't even have to find him outside. He's there inside our heart. Right? And he's the controller and savior of all these. So now we will continue from verse number 6. And this section Yeah. So the first section is up to verse number 11, where Sukdev Goswami is answering Parikshit Maharaj's questions in brief by speaking about the superiority of bhakti. So whatever in this verse Sukadeva Goswami spoke, that is bhakti only, right? Hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshipping. Yeah, all right. So let us go to verse number 6.
Mataji, can I read?
Sure. Yeah, let me just share my screen. Yeah. 2, 1, 2, 1, 6. Okay, go ahead, Rashmi.
एतावान् योगभायं स्वधर्मा परिनिष्ठय जन्मा लभा परा पुंसा अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of God at the end of life. Purport. Narayana is the transcendental personality of Godhead beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of the Mahatattva, material principle, and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayana, or the personality excuse me, or the personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahatattva, and as such the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayana are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by cultivation of mystic power, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smriti, or constant remembrance of personality of Godhead. This is possible only by the association of pure devotees who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, karmis in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. There are many historical instances of the achievement of spiritual perfection, such as that of Sanakadi Rishi or the 9 celebrated Yogendras, who attained perfection only after being situated in the devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees of the Lord ever deviate from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by the jnanis or yogis. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of his particular activity, and it is indicated herein that such perfection is Narayana Smriti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of life.
Yeah, you want to say something, Rashmi?
Yeah, Mataji. So basically, in this, the Sukadev Goswami is answering like, what is the perfection of human life? The perfection of human life is Ante Narayana Smriti. That's what looks like in
Yes.
yeah. So that is that is Ante Narayana Smriti is the perfect. That means you have to remember uh, Narayana, Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the time with the proper devotional service. Basically, that is what it is. And and also in the purport, very nicely it is given that um, mm, it is how it is possible. It is given. It is only possible by the association of the pure devotees. Only that will give us the finishing touch, with not by other methods like jnanis, yogis, karmis. They can all do other methods, but you will not get to that perfection, that Narayana Smriti. How you can constantly remember the personality of Godhead is by association of pure devotees, and also
Mm.
by hear and glorify and remember the about Supreme Personality Godhead.
Mm.
And I like the last line, very practical.
Mm.
How we can do is everyone must endeavor to do his
Mm.
best on this Narayana Smriti.
Mm.
And how we can do is we have to mold our life in such a manner that where we are always able to remember God. If we are keeping ourselves busy with our own materialistic, you know, other
Mm.
occupation or whatever, then we cannot
Mm.
get to that. So association, hearing, glorifying, remembering, and also molding our life, I think, is what Sukadev Goswami is saying, Mataji.
Mm. Yeah.
and and
So,
also it
yeah.
reminds me of this in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, I don't know, Mataji, which chapter and all that, at the end of the life, who remembers me will attend my
Yeah,
nature. One verse is,
eighth chapter, verse number 5 and 6. So in 5, he says, if you remember, then you will attain me. And in 6, he says that if whatever state of mind one is in at the time of leaving the body, that they achieve, right?
yes, Mataji.
But if we remember him, then we will attain him. If we don't, yeah, that is the perfection of life. And there are few other things here. So why remembrance of Narayan? So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada here, he writes that the existence of Narayan or the personality of Godhead is not within the jurisdiction of Mahatattva, right? It is beyond the three modes of material nature. So Narayan is not contaminated by the three modes of material nature. He is completely transcendental. That is why his remembrance will take us to the abode of the Supreme Lord, right? Which is our goal of human form of life. Yeah. So there even, and then Prabhupada also writes that his name, not only just Narayan, but as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayan are beyond the jurisdiction of material world. And another thing that this verse is describing, whatever path one may be following, right? Etavan, Sankhya, Yoga, Bhyam. Either somebody is following Sankhya, Swadharma, Parinishthaya, so or some other kind of this practice of mystic powers, and then janma labha para pumsam. So or any discharge of occupational duty if somebody is doing whatever one is doing, but the goal is to remember. The goal should be to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the end of life. And without, and then this you mentioned that, but a little bit more on that. So Sri Prabhupada is writing this thing here, that no matter what others are doing, whatever path one is following, one can achieve the highest perfection provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayan Smriti or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. And he says this is possible only by the association of pure devotee who can give the finishing touch. So this was a very striking word for me. Finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. So without, so why devotee association? Because without the touch of bhakti, one cannot come to the stage of remembrance of the Lord at the end of life. So because and that bhakti, that bhakti comes from a bhakta. There is no other way, and no other way of getting bhakti. Bhakti comes from a bhakta only. So that is what is important. So we should take the association of those who reminds us of Krishna, who reminds us of our real purpose, and we should not waste our time in an association where we get the forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord, right? That is what it means here, because our goal is to go back to the Supreme Lord in spiritual world, and that will happen by Ante Narayan Smriti, and that Smriti will come if one has bhakti, then only it will come, and bhakti comes from a bhakta. So, and then the the six principles of surrender also is that we should accept those things which are favorable for our Krishna consciousness, and we should reject those things which are not favorable for our Krishna consciousness. Similarly, and also it is said, who is a friend? Who reminds us of Krishna is our true friend, actually. Those who take us away from, they may be like in the material sense, somebody may be friend for sense enjoyment, but actually they are not real friends, because they are taking us away from the remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So we should have friendship with those who are helping us in remembering the Supreme Lord. All right. So let's move on to the verse number 7. Someone would
Can I
like.
read, Mataji?
Yeah, sure. Kalpana.
Thank you, Mataji. Rayena Munyo Raja Nivrita Vidhi Sedhata Naigunyasya Ramante Sma Gunanu Hare. Translation of Vasila Prabhupada. Okay, O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles of restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. The topmost transcendentalist is the liberated soul and is therefore not within the purview of the regulative principles. A neophyte who is intended to the promoted to the spiritual plan is guided by the spiritual master under regulative principles. He may be compared to the patients who are treated by the various restrictions under medical jurisdictions. Generally, liberated souls also take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities. As method above, since Narayan Hari, the personality of Godhead, is beyond the material creation, his form and attribute are not material. The topmost transcendentalist or the liberated soul realized him by advanced experience of transcendental knowledge, and therefore they take pleasure in the discussion of the transcendental qualities of the Lord pastime. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of God had declared that his appearance and activities are all divya or transcendental. The common man who is under the spell of material energy take it for the granted that the Lord is like one of us, and therefore he refused to accept the transcendental nature of the Lord's form, name, etc. The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matter of the Lord's activities is
Definite proof.
definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. In the Vedic literature also, it is confirmed that Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in his transcendental pastime in his company of his unalloyed devotee, and simultaneously he is present as the Supreme Soul, as an expansion of Baladev. In the heart of all living entities, therefore, the highest perfection of transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and not in merging into the impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonalist honest aspired. And real transcendental pleasure is realized in the glorification of the transcendental Lord, and not in the feeling of being situated in his impersonal feature. But there are also others who are not the topmost transcendentalists, but are in the lower, lower status, and who do not take pleasure in describing the transcendental activities of the Lord. Rather, they discuss such activities of the Lord for mainly with the aim of merging into the existence. Hari Bol.
All right. Yeah, Hari Bol. Thank you. You want to say something?
No, Mataji, you explain it.
Anything that you got from the words of the purport?
Oh, yes, yeah. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about topmost transcendentalist. So he says that Parikshit Maharaj is the topmost transcendentalist, and topmost transcendentalist always engage ourselves in the devotional service, listening, chanting, and glorification of the Lord.
Yeah. So in the previous verse, we heard that the what is the highest perfection is Ante Narayan Smritihi. So here it is giving the example, the proof of realization. So these transcendentalists who actually they are taking only interest in glories of the Lord, right? Mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions. So yesterday in Bhagavad Gita, we heard about Yama and Niyama. Yes, in Ashtanga Yoga system, Yama and Niyama. So these transcendentalists, for them, it is spontaneous devotion to Krishna, some spontaneous mood of service to Krishna. So they are not following those lower. Remember that Arurukshu stage and the Yoga Rudha stage we heard. So in Arurukshu stage, which is premature, then one is still supposed to do the duties, right, according to his varna and ashram. But when one is mature in their connection with the super soul, then they can give up. So this is the higher kind of transcendentalists who don't have to follow the yama and niyamas and all those things, right? So that is what here Sukadev Goswami is giving that proof that yes, there are people who have realization of the Lord, right? And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he is speaking about that initially when we are neophyte, we are supposed to follow the rules and regulations because we are not spontaneous. Oh, my heart doesn't, hanker to chant the holy name, but because I am given this instruction, or I have taken a vow to chant the holy name. So under the instruction of spiritual master, I will do, right? So we have to, we are kind of patients. That is what Srila Prabhupada is writing. So in order to cure the disease, we need to follow some restrictions and some rules and regulations that we need to follow. So yeah, so and also this towards the highest perfection of the transcendental realization is to take pleasure in hearing and describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord and not in merging into its impersonal Brahman existence, for which the impersonalist monists aspire. The real transcendental pleasure is realized in the glorification of the transcendental Lord and not in feeling of being situated in impersonal feature. That is what here Srila Prabhupada writes. So basically, we should hear about, and what is the example of somebody in Bhagavatam? We read that how somebody was more attracted to the beauty of Krishna and his qualities. Any example anybody remembers?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think even Sukadev Goswami himself, when he was a personalist, but hearing the verses of Bhagavatam, so much attracted to Krishna's form.
Yeah. So basically, not this transcendentalist here. It's those, and it's saying that that they take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord. So it's definitely not impersonalism. So impersonalism, the personal touch is higher than the impersonalism, basically. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is writing here, and also Srila Prabhupada is quoting that verse of Bhagavad Gita 4.9 that what is that? Janma karma chami divyam evam yoveti tatvata tattva deham punarinma naeti mamiti sa Arjuna. So if we understand the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities, then we can go back to to him after completing this span of our, what is that? Jail in the jail kind of, body is kind of a jail, prison, right? After getting free from this prison of this body, then we can go back to him if we understand that, right? Yeah. And also this point here that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that, what is that? Where is the sentence? The topmost transcendentalist is not interested in anything material, and his taking interest in the matters of Lord's activities is definite proof that the Lord is not like one of us in the material world. So this is exactly what we read and heard about Sukadeva Goswami, right? Because he came back to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, even though he was already an impersonalist, right? He was Brahman realized already. Why did he come? Because actually, why did he come for hearing that Srimad Bhagavatam? Because Krishna is transcendentalist and he is a person. In the Vedic literature also it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is one, but that he is engaged in his transcendental pastimes in the company of his unalloyed devotees, and that simultaneously he is present at the Super Soul and an expansion of Baladev in the heart of all living entities. So somebody in Bhagavatam, which I read that in first canto, who expressed that idea, oh, you are outside as well as inside.
I think
Anybody remembers?
Kunti Mata? Was it
Yes,
Kunti Mata?
yeah, Queen Kunti. When Krishna protected Parikshit Maharaj, and he was outside also and inside as Paramatma, he protected Parikshit Maharaj. Then she mentioned, "Oh, you are inside as well as outside," but still people cannot understand you, right? All right, so let's move on to the next verse.
Mataji, can I read?
Yeah, sure.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Adi Tavan Vaparatu Dau Pitur Dvaipayanadaham. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. At the time of the Dwapar Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva.
Dvapayana, yes.
Vyasadeva. The statement made by Srila Sukadev Goswami that the topmost transcendentalist, who is beyond the jurisdictions of regulations and restrictions, mainly takes to the task of hearing about and glorifying the personality of Godhead, is verified by his personal example. Sukadev Goswami, being a recognized liberated soul and the topmost transcendentalist, was accepted by all of the topmost sages present in the meeting during the last 7 days of Maharaj Parikshit. He cites from the example of his life that he himself was attracted by the internal activities of the Lord. He studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father, Sri Dvapayana Vyasadeva. Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any other scientific literature, cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Medical books of anatomy or physiology are available in the market, but no one can become a qualified medical simply by reading such books at home. One has to be admitted to the medical college and study the books under the guidance of learned professors. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study of science of Godhead, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of the realized souls like Srila Vyasadeva. Although Shukadev Goswami was a liberated soul from very day of his birth, he still had to take lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, who compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of another great soul, Sri Narada Muni. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed a learned Brahmana to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a personal Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavatam is based on transcendental name, form, its pastime, entourage, and variegatedness of the Supreme Person, and it is spoken by the incarnation of the personality of God. Pastimes of the Lord are executed in cooperation with his pure devotees, and consequently, historical incidents are mentioned in his great literature because they are related to Krishna. It is called Brahma Samitam because it is a sound representative of Lord Krishna, like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the sound incarnation of the Lord because it is spoken by the Supreme Lord. And Srimad Bhagavatam is a sound representative of the Lord because it is spoken by the incarnation of the Lord about the activities of the Lord. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree and the natural commentation on the Brahma Sutras, the topmost philosophical thesis on the subject matter of Brahman. Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwapara or the beginning of Dwapara Yuga in this context means just prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree, the beginning, is the beginning of the tree, but in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. Very bold.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mataji. So it is very clear that this transcendental knowledge should be studied under the guidance of liberated souls. It cannot be studied by one's own efforts. And for Shukadev Goswami itself, he is liberated. Still, he had to study this under his father who is a incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, for liberated soul like Sukadev Goswami only, the condition is like that. Then for the rest of others, it's simply implied that they cannot study by themselves, and it has to be under the guidance of liberated soul. So, Mataji, the last sentence I was not able to. The root
Yeah,
of the,
let's read. Yeah, it's a little bit.
yeah, the
So
root of
the logic of, so let's read from here. In the beginning of Dwapara, yeah, so that part is over, like the Dvapayana Vyas, because
yeah,
he appeared at the end of. The logic of this statement, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is the beginning of the tree. Okay, actually that is what, right? How when the seed and then roots come and then it grows, right? So that is actually the beginning of the tree. But in common knowledge, the upper portion of the tree is first seen. So on the basis of the vision, the upper part we see first, right? We don't see the roots. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. So actually the top comes in the end. Top of the tree that we see first, that comes in the end. Right? So that is what he's Srila Prabhupada saying. In that way, the end of the tree is accepted as its beginning. But why is it saying in the beginning of the Dwapara Yuga? Wait, yeah. Okay, so wait a second. As stated in the beginning of this book, it is the essence of the Vedic desire tree. Which verse is that? Anybody remembers? That Bhagavatam is the desire tree, essence of desire tree. Anybody remembers that verse? Nigam kalpataro galitam phalam. Yeah, first chapter, verse number 3. Verse number 3, right? Nigam kalpataro galitam phalam sukhmugat amritdrav samyutam pibat bhagavatam rasamalam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha. right? Oh, expert in thoughtfulness. This mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature. Galitam phalam. Galitam is that mature and ripened fruit. Anyways, so this, I think he's speaking about that why. So Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapar Yuga as the son of Satyavati, and therefore the word Dwapar Adau, or the beginning of, okay. So, actually Vyasadeva appeared at the end of Dwapar Yuga, but Dwapar Adau means the beginning of Yuga. In this context means just prior to beginning of Kali Yuga, right? So then he is speaking about that how even though he appeared in the end of Dwapar Yuga, why we are saying beginning of Dwapar Yuga, right? Is it clear now, Koki? Mata?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the beginning of Dwapar Yuga, he was just like it's end of the Kali Yuga.
End of Dwapar Yuga, beginning of Kali Yuga.
Beginning of Kali Yuga. So they're comparing that the context to the tree root and
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So this whole purport, it is so this whole what is so the importance here is that one should study Vedic literature from a bona fide spiritual master, not by himself. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example of like medical books are there, but one cannot become a doctor just by studying the books by themselves, right? They have to go to the university. So this Srimad Bhagavatam should be understood from somebody who already have understood it and realized it. So that is in context of that Sukadeva Goswami, he actually heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva, right? Here he says that which is equal to all the Vedas. I studied with great supplement, this great supplement of Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. So now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing the superiority of the personal form over and above the impersonal form, right? So because he was Sukadeva Goswami was already a Brahmavadi, means Brahman realized. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, and then still he went to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, study Srimad Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva. And what is Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam is speaking about the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. Right? Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna. So he is attracted to the personal form of the Lord. So this whole purport, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about superiority of Lord's pastime over Brahman, right? So Bhagavatam contains the pastime, name, form, qualities, and pastime of the Lord. And Sukadeva Goswami, even though he was already Brahman realized, still he was to hear from Vyasadeva. So we things. One is that the pastimes and personal feature of the Lord are higher than the Brahman feature of the Lord, and also one should study Bhagavatam under the guidance of a proper saintly personality, spiritual master. Right. So this next verse is also in the continuation of the theme. Someone would like to read?
I can read, Mataji. Thank you. Parinistito api nirgunya uttamaslokalilaya grihita cheta rajarse akhyanam yad aditavan. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, which is described by the enlightened verses. Purport. The absolute truth is realized as the impersonal Brahman at the first instance by philosophical speculation, and later as a supersoul by further progress of transcendental knowledge. But if by the grace of the Lord an impersonalist is enlightened by the superior statements of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he is also converted into a transcendental devotee of the personality of Godhead. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of the personality of the absolute truth, and the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by the less intelligent impersonalist. But reasons and arguments together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth help even the staunch impersonalist to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. A person like Sukadeva Goswami cannot be attracted by any mundane activity. But when such a devotee is convinced of by a superior method, he is certainly attracted by the transcendental activities of the Lord. The Lord is transcendental, as are his activities, and he is neither inactive nor impersonal. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu, you want to say something?
Yes, Mataji. So first of all, if an impersonalist is fortunate enough to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord from a self-realized soul, then he'll probably get the good fortune of becoming a personalist. And of course, here Prabhupada mentioned the Brahman, the realization is the first impersonal Brahman and then goes to super soul, and then of course finally Brahman. Finally Bhagavan. And the most important thing is that that person should be fortunate enough to hear about the transcendental activity of the Lord. If that happens, then that person will become a personalist, and the Lord is not inactive or impersonal. The Lord is personal. Srila Prabhupada says in the last state.
Yeah. So meaning if a liberated soul like Sukadeva Goswami got attracted to personal feature of the Lord, then definitely it's not something lower than that. It's not something mundane, right? Because he's already liberated. So that personal feature of the Lord are even more attracted than the Brahman. So Srila Prabhupada actually in many lectures, he gave this example. Like if we see a mountain from far, far away, it will look like a cloud, right? It will just look like something. And then if we come closer, then we start seeing, so that is actually impersonal Brahman. And then if we come a little closer, we will see green, something we will see, right? And when we go just on the mountain, then we will see trees, grass, there may be animals grazing and things like that we will see. So that is the green thing that we see when we come closer, a little closer, and it looks like a mountain, not a cloud, then it is super soul kind of. And when we are there on the mountain, we see individual things, trees and grass and all those things, then it is the personal, actually, the personal form of the Lord compared to the personal form of the yeah. And what are the two verses someone remembers that Sukadeva Goswami got attracted to?
Ahobakiyam.
And
And
one more is Barha Freedom.
yeah, Bharapidam Netvarvapu Karnikaram Vibratavasa Kanakapisham Vajantim Chamalam Randran Venu Radar Sudhya Puryan Gopurindayar Vrindaranyam Saupadramanam Prafishat Kirtihi. Yes, so this Bharapidam, it is describing the beauty of the Lord. And that second one, Ahobakyam Sapanikalakutam Jigam Syapaya Sadvi Lebe Gatim Datrim Uchitam Tatoanyam Kamvadayadum Sharanam Vrajema. So the second one, when Sukadeva Goswami heard, oh, such a person actually who made a person who came to poison him, he gave her a place as his own Dhatri, meaning the helper of Mother Yashoda. Oh, this person is really something, so I should really go and hear more about him, right? Yeah, so that personal feature of the Lord is very attractive, and this Sukadeva Goswami is giving his example in these two verses 8 and 9, right? So let's go on to verse number 10.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a
Mat-
question.
Yeah.
Mataji, so in today's world, even we see, right, all around us, many leaders are impersonalists. So how do we take it and how do we understand this, that they do not have the knowledge of the higher platform or they just don't want to accept it? And
So, yeah.
how should we, when we come in contact with those people, how should we interact or how should we position these when that the higher knowledge is Bhagwan, how not to be confrontational and still tell them the higher the better truth or the higher truth.
Yeah. So one thing is that they are in ignorance, first of all, that and then this is what Srila Prabhupada writes here. But if by the grace of the Lord if an impersonalist is enlightened by a superior statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, he also converted into the transcendental devotee of personality of Godhead, right? And then he says, with a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of the personality of absolute truth. That is poor fund of knowledge. They don't have proper knowledge. And even though we have it, but still we have a lot of impersonal ideas right now. And therefore, the personal activities of the Lord are deplored by the less intelligent impersonalists, but reasons and arguments, together with the transcendental process of approaching the absolute truth, help even the staunch impersonalists to become attracted by the personal activities of the Lord. So that is just like Sukadeva Goswami got attracted to those two verses of Bhagavatam. Similarly, what we can, like Srila Prabhupada gave that analogy in second chapter when the verse starts with Shri Bhagavan Vacha. There Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy of the sunshine, the sun disk, and so such kind of analogies can be presented, and this mountain analogy can be presented. And the train, like when we hear the sound of a horn, then we know that train is coming. But what does it look like, and when we come and close, meaning behind a sound there is something, right? And in Isopanishad, that in the introduction, in the preface, Srila Prabhupada gives that I have a form, and I am a created being by the Supreme Lord. How can your phone is giving a lot of noise, Bhagavati Prabhu? Yeah, some static noise is coming. I don't know from where it is coming.
I mean,
Oh, Barsana Mataji, you are not muted.
Oh, sorry, ma'am.
Yeah. So there is some very strong noise coming. Yeah. So in the Isopanishad, Srila Prabhupada writes that we accept that we have a Supreme Father. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, right? And I have a form, then how can the creator, the source, and the supreme is lower than me? How can it be? Right? In Isopanishad that. And I remember I wrote an essay about this, how to defeat impersonalism. So I can share some more ideas from that, but these are a few things that are coming now in my mind.
Thank you, Mataji. And so if you can share that essay, and the other question I have is like, if we are condemning impersonalism, are we doing aparad?
No, we should not condemn impersonalism, because that is the feature of one of the features of the Lord, but that is not all. Right? That vadanti tat tattvam vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdete, in second chapter, first canto, second chapter, that verse, I think 11 or 13 is there, that says vadanti tat tattvam vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdete. So these are the three features of the Lord. So just like sunshine is a feature of sun, similarly, this impersonal Brahmajyoti is the feature of the Lord, but it's not complete. It is only representing the Sat feature of the Lord. It is not representing Chit and Ananda, right? So it's both impersonal and personal. So we don't condemn it, but we say it's incomplete realization of the Lord.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu.
So we know that the impersonal is also there are different kinds of impersonal. Some who believe just in the impersonal feature of the Lord, and some who believe that they themselves are God, and both of them are. So those should be condemned because either
Mayavadis who consider them, those are Mayavadis.
Right.
Yes, that
Right.
they should be condemned. Yes, Mayavadis should be condemned. How can you be God? Can you?
Right.
You cannot even.
Okay, so Brahmavadi should not be condemned.
Yeah, Mayavadi should be condemned. Yeah.
And who are Shunyavadis? Is the Buddhists?
Yeah,
That's a Buddhist. Yes.
Buddhist, Shunyavadi means nothing. I don't know how to even explain that.
I had a question though,
Yeah. Oh, Krishna went into the technical things.
Sorry, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead.
It said that, if you believe in Krishna, so there's a bona fide process, you're believing in Krishna. So Lord Buddha was an incarnation of Krishna. So if the Buddhists believe in Lord Buddha as the Lord, then won't they not get liberation?
Actually, if you read the purport in first Canto, chapter 3, where Buddha's incarnation is described, if you read that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes it clearly there that in third chapter, Lord Buddha. Yeah, so this one, if you read this purport, Prabhu, either here or in Nectar of Devotion, where Lord Buddha is described, Srila Prabhupada writes there, actually, this was to trick, means actually, somehow, I mean, if they are doing it properly, then they may actually be raised to higher levels later on in there, because this is to trick actually, because he condemned the Vedas. Lord Buddha condemned the Vedas, right? So atheists started following and believing Lord Buddha. So here somewhere Prabhupada writes, let me find it. So yeah, even in the translation it says, purpose of deluding those who are envious of faithful theists, and it was some indirect way, right? He deluded the atheists because such atheists who followed his principles did not believe in God, but they kept their absolute faith in Lord Buddha, who himself was an incarnation of God. Thus, the faithless people were made to believe in God in the form of Lord Buddha. That was the mercy of Lord Buddha. He made the faithless faithful to him. So, I mean,
if they believe in, if they believe in Lord Buddha as God, then they will be on the right path.
Something, some positive thing will come out. Maybe in future lifetimes they will take up the process of devotional service. That's what I understand from this. I remember these few lines that Srila Prabhupada writes, and this is and in Nectar of Devotion also somewhere where Lord Buddha is described, it is Srila Prabhupada writes like this only.
Okay, thank you.
But it's also a way to reach the impersonal form, right, Mataji?
Say that again.
So whatever Lord Buddha taught, right? It's very difficult path, very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, very difficult, yes.
But it is also one of the way to reach the impersonal Brahman.
Yeah, I mean, just like if somebody believes him to be God, then that the way Srila Prabhupada writes, gradually one can even come to the personal form of the Lord, maybe. Right? We don't know. I mean, how, if somebody is good, actually, how it would happen is they might get association of devotees, and without association of devotee, definitely nothing can happen, basically, right? And in today's purport also, we read that part, that that finishing touch, Rashmi Mataji was reading, right? That Ante Narayan Smriti verse, that if one is following different processes, but if they are fortunate enough to get that finishing touch from a devotee, then they can come to this platform of remembering the Lord, right?
Yeah, Mataji, but he's also meditating, right? Mataji is meditating.
Yeah, meditating on void, that nothingness, like the dot, the blank. Basically, that's the meditation is not the correct kind of meditation. So
one realization, Paramatma realization.
Not even Paramatma. No, there is no Paramatma and all that in Buddhism. Right?
The Shunya means zero, null, void.
Yeah, void, complete void. That nothingness means nothing exists basically. Yeah. It's not, the meditation is not on Brahman or Paramatma, actually.
Yeah, Mataji, got it. Thank you, Mataji.
Shunyavad. Okay, so it's 8:27. Anybody has anything to share quickly or say something? So what is the highlight for today? Please share. Whoever wants to share quickly. We will end dot 8:30.
We have to remember Krishna all the time. Ante Narayana Smriti.
Ante Narayana Smriti. And how will that happen?
By the association of devotees, by the Navda Bhakti hearing and chanting. Remember.
Yeah, yes.
The highest form of transcendence is remembering the activities, glorious activities of the Lord.
Yeah, and we can always remember the Sukadev Goswami. And also one important point was that we can study Srimad Bhagavatam in under the guidance of just like Sukadev Goswami studied it under Vyasadev. So like from a already realized soul, we can, and we are having this fortune of having this Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada. Reading his purports and all, that is what we are associating and studying it under Srila Prabhupada's guidance. And yeah. All right. Something.
Mataji, that sloka you said, Aho Bakiyam is which chapter is from?
It's, I think, 3rd canto, chapter 2, verse number 23.
3 to 23.
223. Let me check 1 second if I remember correctly. 3 to 23, I think. Yes, yeah, Mataji. Canto 3, chapter 2, verse number 23.
Okay, thank you.
Tankalakuttam chigam sayapayadapiya sadhani leve gatim datrim uchitam tato anyam tumva dayalum sharanam rajema. Yeah.
So next canto we will get it.
Yeah.
Then we are going to.
Okay, devotees.
Yes.
Should we end? Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mataji.
Bhat ki jai. Thank you,
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्
Mataji.
भागवतम की जय, अनंत
जय।
कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय,
Shamita
वांछा
ki jai.
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो
Pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
Vaishnavebhyo
नमो
Namo
नमः।
Namaः.
हरि हरि
Hari
बोल।
Bol.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.